certain things gonna have to change. Certain things gonna have to be different. Because now you know new stuff.
Almost 30 years after Pac's death, new investigations are dropping revelations so wild they're flipping the entire narrative on its head. The story we were fed? Bro, that was barely half the truth. And now some of the biggest names in the game are tangled up in the fallout. So let's break it all down. How the West Coast lost its realest soldier. Tupac Shakur, born Lesane Parish Crooks on June 16, 1971, wasn't just another West Coast MC. He was the pulse of the culture. By the mid-90s, he'd already stamped his legacy with classics like Me Against the World and the iconic double album All Eyes on Me. And while he was killing rap, he was also lighting up Hollywood with roles in Juice and Poetic Justice. Pac had become everything a real one from the trenches dreams of becoming. But behind the success, the streets were shifting. What started as rap competition turned into something darker. The so-called East Coast versus West Coast war. And this wasn't just friendly smoke. This was the kind of tension where one wrong move could erase your whole future. The roots go back to the late 80s when NWA and the West started pushing back against New York's reign. But things really went left after 1991. Tim Dog dissed Compton, Dre left Death Row drama brewing, and Suge Knight built a label with real blood ties that was about to shake the entire industry. Then Puff Daddy launched Bad Boy in NYC, putting Biggie on top with Ready to Die. That rivalry shifted from a coast-to-coast debate to personal war. November 30th, 1994, Quad Studios, Times Square. Pac walks into the building thinking he's just heading to record. Instead, he walks into an ambush. He gets shot 5 times, robbed for $40,000 in jewelry, and crawls into the lobby only to see Biggie and Puff posted there. Whether they were involved or just happened to be chilling, Pac believed that moment was betrayal. A year later in Vibe he aired Everybody Out, Puff, Biggie, Uptown, Andre Harrell. The friendship was over. The war was official. After serving time, Suge Knight bailed Pac out for $1.4 million in 1995, and Pac joined Death Row. The beef instantly went nuclear. At the Source Awards, Suge dissed Puff, Snoop clowned the East Coast crowd, and Pac doubled down with hit, Up, one of the most disrespectful diss tracks ever recorded. But something else was brewing off camera. Something that would end up sealing Pac's fate. 2 months before Vegas. July 1996, Lakewood Mall. A Death Row homie, Trayvon Lane, gets jumped by Southside Crips, including a young dude named Orlando Baby Lane Anderson. They snatch a Death Row chain. That chain wasn't just jewelry. It was a line in the sand. Bloods versus Crips. Ego versus disrespect. And Baby Lane? He just happened to be the nephew of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the man who would later become the centerpiece of the entire murder case. By the time September 7, 1996 rolled around, every beef line, East Coast versus West Coast, Blood versus Crip, personal vendettas, collided in Las Vegas like fate lining up a tragedy. November 30th, 1994, Quad Studios, Times Square. Pac walks into the building thinking he's just heading to record. Instead, he walks into an ambush. He gets shot 5 times, robbed for $40,000 in jewelry, and crawls into the lobby only to see Biggie and Puff posted there. Whether they were involved or just happened to be chilling, Pac believed that moment was betrayal. A year later in Vibe he aired Everybody Out, Puff, Biggie, Uptown, Andre Harrell. The friendship was over. The war was official. After serving time, Suge Knight bailed Pac out for $1.4 million in 1995, and Pac joined Death Row. The beef instantly went nuclear. At the Source Awards, Suge dissed Puff, Snoop clowned the East Coast crowd, and Pac doubled down with hit, Up, one of the most disrespectful diss tracks ever recorded. But something else was brewing off camera. Something that would end up sealing Pac's fate. 2 months before Vegas. July 1996, Lakewood Mall. A Death Row homie, Trayvon Lane, gets jumped by Southside Crips, including a young dude named Orlando Baby Lane Anderson. They snatch a Death Row chain. That chain wasn't just jewelry. It was a line in the sand. Bloods versus Crips. Ego versus disrespect. And Baby Lane? He just happened to be the nephew of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the man who would later become the centerpiece of the entire murder case. By the time September 7, 1996 rolled around, every beef line, East Coast versus West Coast, blood versus Crip, personal vendettas, collided in Las Vegas like fate lining up a tragedy. He was just 25 years old, barely getting started. Official cause: multiple gunshot wounds. When the internal bleeding wouldn't stop, Tupac Shakur had to make the most heartbreaking decision a mother can face. They held a private service, cremated his body, and in true West Coast outlaw fashion, the homies from the Outlaws rolled his ashes into a blunt as their final salute. Hip-hop was devastated, but the chaos that followed was only the beginning. The 27-year mystery, and the OG who couldn't keep quiet. For almost 3 decades, Tupac's murder stood as one of America's most notorious unsolved cases. Vegas PD dropped leads left and right, ignored the MGM fight tape, brushed off tips about the white Cadillac, and showed zero urgency. No arrests, no suspects, no justice. And when the system failed, the streets filled in the blanks. Conspiracy theories started multiplying like wildfire. Let's break down the main narratives that have kept fans arguing for nearly 30 years. Theory 1. Straight gang retaliation. The most widely believed version says it was Southside Compton Crips striking back after the MGM stompout of Orlando Anderson. Dwayne "Kef D" Davis allegedly steering the car, calling the shots, and letting his crew handle the trigger work. Reports from the early 2000s even hinted at Crips getting East Coast money to do the job. Theory 2. Biggie and Puff arranged it. Pac accused them of lining up the 1994 Quad Studio setup. And some investigators believe Puffy put $1 million hit on Pac and Suge after tensions exploded at the '95 Source Awards. Greg Kading's task force work pointed to bad boy money being funneled through Crip intermediaries. Combe *yes has denied it for years, and he's never faced charges, but the whispers never stopped. This one is the darkest. Some believe Suge feared Pac leaving death row, especially with money issues piling up. Either he arranged the hit, or he was the intended target. His silence, his contradictions, and Kading's claims linking Suge to Biggie's later murder through hitman Poochie Faust kept this theory alive. Theory 4. The legendary Pac is alive theory. This one refuses to die. Fans claim he faked his death, escaping enemies under the Machiavelli persona. Rumored Cuba sightings, hidden messages in album art, the 7-day theory, the quick cremation, it all fed into the myth. Autopsy documents and family confirmations shut it down, but believers still cling to it. Theory 5. The government conspiracy. Because Tupac was a former Black Panther, some believe Tupac was on COINTELPRO type watch lists. Declassified files showing the Jewish Defense League extorting Pac added more fuel. Corrupt LAPD officers moonlighting as death row security only deepened public suspicion. Evidence is thin, but distrust of the system makes the theory hit heavy. But the wildest twist in the entire story? Dwayne Keith "Kef D" Davis, the OG who couldn't stay quiet. Born June 14, 1963, Kef D was a Southside Compton Crip with deep ties in the 80s and 90s crack era. He ran with hitters, did time, built a rep, and looked after his nephew Orlando Anderson, the same guy Pac stomped at the MGM. To Kef D, that beatdown was the final straw. "They jumped my nephew," he said. "That gave us the green light." But here's where he messed up badly. He started talking. A lot. In the 2000s, facing federal drug charges, he flipped, cooperating with LAPD and the feds, even discussing Biggie's murder. This gave him limited immunity, which he later bragged about. But then came the interviews, the podcasts, the book deals, the documentaries. Everywhere a camera popped up, he was there, retelling the Vegas shooting like it was a war story. He openly admitted riding in the white Cadillac. He said he supplied the .40 Glock that Big Dre allegedly fired. He painted himself as the one calling the plays. In one of his most notorious interviews, he described the moment with a calmness that chilled the whole internet. Then everything shifted. On July 18, 2023, LVMPD finally hit Davis's Henderson home, scooping up electronics, .40 caliber rounds, photos of Anderson and Pac, and even his own book, the same book he used to tell on himself. And on September 29, 2023, nearly 27 years after the Vegas shooting, Dwayne "Kef D" Davis was officially arrested and charged with first-degree murder with gang enhancements. Prosecutors say he greenlit the retaliation hours after the MGM beatdown, sitting shotgun in the white Cadillac while DeAndre Big Dre Smith unleashed the shots on Pac and Suge. Davis pled not guilty, switching up his story and claiming everything he said was exaggerated for book money and street points. But prosecutors aren't buying a drop of it. As one of them said, he talked in every platform known to man, basically throwing away whatever protection he thought he had. When the grand jury transcripts were unsealed on September 7, 2025, exactly 29 years to the day after Pac was hit, they dropped straight grenades. They laid out the Crip blood dynamics, the bad boy and death row whispers, the stolen chain that set everything off, the alleged $1 million bounty tied to Diddy, which he denies, Pac leaning out the window making himself exposed, and the confirmation that DeAndre Smith was the real trigger man. Smith died in 2004. Anderson died in 1998. That leaves Davis as the last surviving piece of the alleged Vegas hit squad. Meanwhile, Suge Knight is still behind bars, serving 28 years for a 2015 manslaughter case, and he hasn't stayed quiet. In a July 2025 interview with People, Suge threw out wild claims accusing Pac's mother Afeni of helping stage some suicide by cop storyline. Accusations the Shakur family immediately dismissed as nonsense. And when people ask why Suge doesn't just reveal everything he knows, the ones closest to the situation always give the same grim answer.
No, we coming up, what's the name? What's that, Flamingo? Yeah, I think that's Flamingo. We was coming up Flamingo and got to the light. He was going to go drink and smoke some weed, and he happened to be hanging out the window. He's hanging out the window like he was in a parade.
Tupac.
Yeah, he was.
The trial that keeps getting pushed, and the theories that refuse to die. As we inch closer to the 30-year mark since Pac was taken from the world, this case has twisted into something even more chaotic. What should have been closure has turned into delay after delay, leaving the Shakur family, and fans everywhere, wondering if justice is ever actually going to land. Back in June 2024, Davis was granted a $750,000 bail with house arrest. But that didn't last. On June 27, 2024, the judge yanked it right back after questions surfaced about some shady money allegedly tied to a movie deal. Davis blamed it all on Vlad TV lies, and a producer he called Snake Moves. Either way, he's been stuck in Clark County Detention Center ever since. And the trial? Man, that's become its own saga. It got pushed from November 2024 to February 9, 2026 for evidence review, then delayed again to August 10, 2026 because the defense said they needed more time to sift through discovery. DA Steve Wolfson didn't even fight it. Now 62 years old, Davis is sitting there with his new attorneys, Robert Draxovich and Michael Pangelo, who have been preaching one thing. He didn't do it. They filed a suppression motion on November 4, 2025, trying to bury the proffer tapes by claiming the government pulled dirty moves. The argument? That his old cooperation deals with LAPD, 2008, FBI, 2009, and Compton PD, 2010, supposedly gave him use immunity that should prevent prosecutors from frying him with his own interviews.
It looked like he was reaching, yeah. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you actually see a gun?
No, once he got the reaching, I got the ducking.
And on the shooting itself.
I seen a bullet going Suge head. I thought he was dead.
So Orlando shot across Dre?
He leaned over on the window, he rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They was drove on my side, I was popped. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Judge Carly Kearney wasn't buying any of it. She denied the dismissal in July 2025. Davis fired back with an appeal to the Nevada Supreme Court on July 29, 2025, still hanging in limbo as of November 2025. And that wasn't the only legal smoke around him. In April 2025, Davis got convicted on an unrelated jail battery charge. He caught 16 to 40 months, but received credit for time served. His son claimed juror misconduct to get it thrown out. The court rejected it in November 2025. During a July 23, 2024 hearing, Davis even snapped in the courtroom, yelling, "They're trashing my family," after prosecutors questioned some of the bail paperwork. But while Davis waits behind bars for a trial that keeps drifting further away, the street theories about who really orchestrated Pac's murder continue to evolve. One name that's been popping up again is Reggie Wright Jr., death row's former head of security. In interviews after Davis's arrest, Kef D started pointing the finger outward, saying if he's being dragged for Pac, then Reggie and others should be in handcuffs for Biggie. Reggie Wright Jr. hasn't ducked the smoke. He's addressed the allegations head-on.
A little closer than that, Vlad. He was a little closer.
Well, he was in the car with Tupac.
With not just by being in the car with the murders, but he was more involved than people think. It was the conversations and all that led up to that day, or led up to the demise of these two people. My hands ain't clean, should I say. So it was more to it than that. See, one thing people don't understand, Suge know a whole lot, knows everything.
Right.
But Suge can't talk, because if Suge talk, Suge implicate himself in 99.9% of the bullshit that was going on. So Suge could never talk.
Meanwhile, some insiders argue that the deaths of both Pac and Biggie weren't East Coast hits at all. They might have been carefully orchestrated from the inside by players linked to death row itself. The theory goes deeper, pointing to a shocking lapse in security that night, raising questions no one has fully answered.
It's unfortunate that that's the new theme, man. It really is. I thought we had got away from that, especially once PPD had got arrested, even though he had been making his promo tour, talking about it on your channel and in his book and BET Chronicles and other people's platform. And then he gets there, and now he goes to jail, and he, got to pass the buck. You remember that show, The Practice? They used to call The Practice, and they used to have the Plan B, and they say, hey, when your suspect is done, we got to throw it on the best witness and accuse him.
Let's run through the other key players implicated in Tupac's murder besides Davis. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, Davis's nephew and Southside Crips enforcer, was the same guy Tupac confronted in the MGM lobby. Witnesses placed him in the back of the white Cadillac that night. According to 2025 grand jury testimony, Anderson handed the Glock to DeAndre Big Dre Smith after Davis passed it to him because his own shot was blocked. Anderson denied everything before his death and even filed a lawsuit against Tupac's estate for assault in 1997, which Afeni countered. He died on May 29, 1998, in a Compton gang-related shooting at just 21, taking his secrets with him. Terrence "Bubble Up" Brown allegedly drove the white Cadillac. He was tied to both the Southside Crips and Bad Boy Records, even serving as security for Junior Mafia. LAPD Detective Greg Kading's 2009 proffer with Davis revealed Brown received the alleged $1 million bag from Puff through intermediaries. Brown bragged about handling East Coast business in Compton, but later died in a 2015 car crash. DeAndre Big Dre Smith has been named as the actual shooter in the 2025 grand jury documents. A 400-pound Crip heavy hitter, Smith fired the Glock Davis supplied at the BMW, while Anderson's positioning blocked his own line of fire. He matched witness sketches, but was killed in a 2004 drive-by, possibly as revenge for other gang conflicts.
If you ask me, that was all in-house.
So you believe Tupac and Biggie murder was in-house?
I believe Biggie and Tupac was in-house. All had something to do with death row people. There's no way, bro. There's no way that I'm gonna have a convoy of cars and somebody's gonna ride up to my principal and kill them. There's no way, unless it's in-house. Somebody we know, somebody we cool with, some familiar face that we let go past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 different cars.
As for Sean Diddy Combs, he's referenced 47 times in the September 2025 transcripts. Davis claimed Combs put up the alleged $1 million bounty after the 1995 Source Awards incident. Lawsuits from Cassie Ventura, 2024, and Kirk Burroughs, 2003, echoed similar claims, though courts dismissed them, and Combs has consistently denied any involvement. LVMPD does not list him as a suspect, though the Shakur family hired investigator Alex Alonso in October 2024 to probe further. Then there's the theory that refuses to die, the belief that Tupac faked his death, hiding out under aliases like Machiavelli. Believers cite album titles like The Dawn Illuminati, The 7-Day Theory, symbolic numerology from his birth date and death time, and imagery on album covers as evidence. Over 100 alleged sightings since 1996, from Cuba to Europe to Malaysia, keep the narrative alive. Viral videos in 2025, including a hooded figure in Poland and alleged burner tweets from Albania, all got debunked, but fans keep hoping. Cryptic calls from Suge Knight in prison only fueled speculation, along with his 2025 People interview claiming Afeni allegedly helped stage Tupac's death for insurance. Why do these theories persist nearly 30 years later? Analysts say it's human nature, coping with senseless violence and distrusting institutions like the LAPD, especially given death row's corruption. Fans refuse to believe a voice as powerful as Tupac's could simply be silenced. The live narrative offers hope, a counter-narrative to the system. Yet Afeni Shakur's 2016 deathbed words, "My son is gone," alongside estate filings, should have ended the speculation. Biographer Stacey Robinson told The New Yorker, Tupac's immortality isn't in hiding. It's in his music. Even if the fake death theory persists, Tupac's legacy is undeniable. Over 75 million records sold, a cultural icon, and influence across generations.